The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. I've got 10:58 here local time in Cleveland, Ohio, at our headquarters. As you can see, I ventured into the office for a third Wednesday in a row. And Chris, I didn't ask you yet, but I assume you're in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Corpus Christi, Texas. Yes, sir.
All right, that's good. I don't know if maybe you were at a relative's house or something else
Oh
going on.
man, yeah, it's been so long. I don't even know if I even know how to get there anymore to relative's house. I don't think I've left the house and
Yeah, my in-laws were the same way. They up here in Ohio, they didn't want us coming over, bringing the kids, and
yeah.
stirring up stuff. So I've been kind of distant.
Mhm.
For those of you who've been with us in the past, we open up the webinar at this point and love to hear from you all and where you're dialing in from, whether you're working from home or the office. If you don't mind letting us know, that'd be great. And we're going to get started with the show here in just about a minute or so. I've got a little bit before the top of the hour. So if you guys haven't joined us before, you can use the question pane within the GoToMeeting webinar control panel. If it's not expanded as you logged in, there's a little orange arrow that'll help you expand that control panel. If you don't mind dialing in and adding a little location and whether or not you're working from home, that'd be great. So always first, Olivier, Vancouver, British Columbia, welcome back. I'm glad you were able to find the link. I know we ran into some technical issues there earlier in the week. He is working from home. We've got Paul from Southeastern PA. Welcome back, Paul. I think you are in Lancaster or Allentown, excuse me, if I'm not mistaken, from one of the last webinars I saw. Anthony also working from home. He's in Ireland, Newbridge, Ireland, I think that says. And now I got to get my specs on. Don't make fun of me, Chris. Yes, Newbridge, Ireland. Thanks for letting us know, Anthony. Thanks for dialing in. We've got Texas with Tom. We've got California, Justin. We've got Jesus in Mexico. Thanks, everybody, for letting me know where you're logging in from. We're going to go ahead and get started here. And when I hand the controls off to Chris here in a little bit, I'll catch up on the incoming answers and responses. I appreciate those coming through. So, Seven Signal, the leader in wireless network monitoring. We're going to kick off today's webinar now. We've got a great topic, a topic that we always bring back because it's so relevant. Helping us stay organized as we run into these Wi-Fi projects. And Chris Mitten's going to lead us in that today. So today's topic, Wi-Fi project and program management basics. Chris, what are we going to talk about today? Can you tell us a little bit about the agenda?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty jam-packed, and it's going to be very relevant to what I do every day, and all the engineers at Seven Signal do, which is Wi-Fi projects. You're going to see how we kind of herd cats, I guess, for lack of a better word. How we get data, how we track projects, how we assign tasks and deliverables, how we stay on an actual good timeline. All of this, I think it's gonna be really relevant to everybody on the webinar, and I'm looking forward to showing you guys some of how we do it.
Awesome. And I know that we've got some topics around whether you're an army of one or have a nice team to support you. We've got some relevant information for both sides. So stay tuned for that. So before we get into the presentation, just a couple of quick slides to go through. These presentations are CWNP certified. For those of you who are going after your certifications, please let us know if you need a copy of a certification or a certificate, excuse me, for attending today's webinar. You do get 1 CE credit for these. We don't get into the product tours or product specific presentations during our Wednesday webinars. If you do want more information on that, you can hit go.sevensignal.com/tour, and that'll get you to the right place, get you some product information. We will share a copy of today's webinar. We do list those on our YouTube page, so you can access archived webinars there. You can get the new one from today. It's usually up about an hour after we present, and then you'll also get an email from Todd Taylor with a link as well. We do have a virtual user group next week, so we'll be swapping out our best practices webinar series and combining it with a virtual user group next week, so please join us. I've got a URL I'm going to share with you as well, but June 24th, next Wednesday, normal start time, 11 o'clock, but it's going to roll into 1 p.m., so it's a little bit longer. We've got a great agenda that we're going to share with everyone here in just a second. And then we also have a special offer, which I'm going to get to here in a moment, around our Mobileye product. But here is the URL for the go-to webinar registration for our virtual user group next week. You can go to go.sevensignal.com/VUG, which is short for virtual user group. We've got customer presentations. We've got a keynote from Lee Badman, which is exciting. We've got a product roadmap as well. So for those of you who are interested in seeing the future of Seven Signal, our CTO will be on, our head of product. So Russ and Simon will be joining us, and also we've got CWNP credits for our virtual rug as virtual user group as well. We've got our 50 for 50 campaign going on right now. For those of you who are familiar with Seven Signal's Mobileye product, and you want to try that, we are helping organizations deal with the COVID crisis and supporting the remote workers. So you can go to go.sevensignal.com/50 for 50. And I'm going to drop these URLs into the chat as well, so you don't have to write those down or open up a new screen and pull those up at this point. So Seven Signal, in a nutshell, we started in 2007. We were founded in Helsinki, Finland, in an incubator there. We moved to the US about 3 years later in search of Wi-Fi talent, and we did just that here locally in Cleveland, actually in the Akron area. And we've since moved our headquarters to Cleveland, Ohio. We hit some major milestones along the way, as you would expect. 1 billion key KPIs that we monitor on a daily basis leads the industry. We monitor over 5 million devices as well. The product is certified. Our products are certified in over 40 countries around the world. We're GDPR compliant. For those of you in the UK and EU, that will resonate with you. So not only do we stay relevant with our technology stack, but also privacy is paramount for us, and we understand that your data needs to be safe, and we comply with those as well. Over 200 customers around the world, over 30 partners, and a lot of them are on today, and a lot of you have dealt with our partners in the past. They're really the who's who in this industry, and they help us get our customers up and running, and help us through any challenges that our customers may face. 14 patents. So the products that you see from Seven Signal, you are only going to see from Seven Signal. So we're here to support the digital experience for the end user. And unlike any other solution on the market, we give our customers visibility into the end user experience. We are living on the devices, we're living in the air, monitoring the RF. Everything we have is AP and device agnostic, so we are independent when it comes to reporting service level quality for you. Our two products are Mobileye and Sapphire Eye. They're on the bottom. And what is unique to Seven Signal is we take an outside-in approach to network monitoring. And I'll get into that in a few minutes. But everything that in the world of Wi-Fi bubbles up to one of these 7 problems. Now they present themselves differently. So, if you're talking to an end user, it's I can't connect, or my connection is slow, the Wi-Fi sucks, we've heard it all. But there's actually a reason behind that. There's a root cause, which Seven Signal gets to the bottom of. It's congestion, it's coverage, it's configuration issues, it's adapters and drivers, it's roaming problems. And what we're doing and how we're finding those things is we're running active and passive tests on your network and on those devices separately, and looking for problems like throughput issues, packet loss, latency and jitter, MOS scores, etc. And we call this segment Wi-Fi performance management. So if you look at a typical LAN infrastructure, and here's just a diagram of one, everyone on this call has something similar to this. The brand names are different, but the output is the same. And what you're relying on now is the inside-out approach that the vendors take, whether it's Cisco or NetApp or so many other vendors that are out there that do a great job looking at the network itself from the inside out. And where we come in, Seven Signal lives on the outside. For Mobileye, we live on the devices. We're monitoring that the user experience on the device with our Mobileye agent. We're monitoring the access points, and with our Sapphire Eye sensors, we're monitoring the RF and service level qualities. We're doing some WLAN configuration checking. So it's just a completely different approach than what your current partners are having right now. And we are here to complement them. We're not here to replace any of those. That's in a nutshell. We've got two products. I mentioned Sapphire Eye and Mobileye. On the left, I'll start there. Mobileye is our product that lives on the devices again. So any Windows, Mac, Android, we have customers using it on mini PCs. So for your IoT that has non-traditional operating systems, you can install Mobileye on a mini PC and attach that to a smart forklift or a robot. To see what their roaming experience is like, make sure there's no coverage issues. There's all kinds of things that we do for our customers, and you'll recognize those problems underneath those red icons as the problems that we talked about earlier. These are the problems that Mobileye fixes: adapters and drivers, roaming, adjacent and co-channel interference, coverage, and congestion. Whereas Sapphire Eye is our sensor that lives up in the rafters with the access points. It's a software-enabled hardware subscription that you purchase from Seven Signal that has a spectrum analyzer and goes deep into the RF, looking for interference issues, configuration issues, network service issues, that kind of stuff. So with that said, I'm going to make our star the presenter. So we can move on with today's presentation. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to go back to the chat room and see if we've gotten any more responses from folks that are dialing in from all over the world. And we've got a couple more that I need to catch up on. Mike is dialing in from home. He's in Vancouver. We've got Riza. He's telling me he's got a problem with the audio. I hope, Chris, are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine. You hear me okay?
Okay. Yeah, I hear you fine. Folks, if you're having issues with audio, let us know. Looks like Riza is the only one that I see right now. We've got Sheffield, England with Richard. Welcome. We've got Santa Barbara, Jeremiah. We've got Todd and Kevin. Oh, lucky you in Minnesota. Audio is fine from Richard. Thank you. And some others. Thanks for letting us know. So on with the show, Chris. What say you?
Yes. So Don, can you see my screen okay, and you can hear me okay, and see my face?
Yeah, I'm looking at your desktop right now.
Perfect. So Don, I wanted to ask you a question real quick, and I think it's really relevant to what we're talking about today. If you were to venture to guess how many active Wi-Fi projects I'm working on with Seven Signal right now, what do you think that number would be?
Oh man, I know it's higher than this, but I'm gonna say 50.
Wow, that's not. It's actually 79.
Oh,
so,
close. Okay.
So you mentioned earlier we're talking about an army of one, and that really is kind of how almost every IT person's role is now. And I am a sales engineer for Seven Signal, and I am in the business of Wi-Fi project management from a vendor perspective. And I currently have 79 active accounts, and these accounts are all in different stages, in different phases. They're in different places, they're different locations, there's different stakeholders. And how do I keep all of that together, right? How do I keep a hold of that? And then how do I know that I actually have that many? And what I always like to show is that I went and counted them. Now, Don, I bet you your inbox doesn't look like this, right?
It does not.
So this is my first tip before I even introduce myself. This is a great little concept. Anything that comes into your inbox is your trash bucket. As soon as something comes in, you have to action it. So if something comes in for a project, I add it to my project. If something comes into something else, I add it and I'll tag it and I'll file it for later. If there's something important, I will respond to it immediately and then file it. And then how I know how many accounts I have, again, you can see all the account lists right here. So anything that happens with that. And I also wanted to talk while we're looking at my beautifully empty inbox, also is about some of the tidiness that you can do with accounts with emails. And you'll see emails from me, and what I'll explain to you guys when we do calendar invites is that the subject line, I always put the account name and what is actually happening in the email. Even if there's an emergency and someone just sends something, a lot of times just changing the email subject line to exactly what's relevant. Also,
makes it easier to find later too.
Absolutely. And everybody is so busy that you want to be able to get that time real quickly. And you want to also write on that email what your action is right off the bat, as quick as you can, what needs to be done. Usually a summary of something usually should be afterwards. You don't want to have an email, especially in project management, where your ask is way in the bottom or halfway, or if you're sending a group email out, it's always good to say to so-and-so information, to so-and-so this information, right? It's easy to do when everything's fine. When things get into a hurry, sometimes you have to go back. Another good thing is that if people start asking for different topics on the original email chain, go ahead and delete all of that email chain off and rename the subject. And it literally starts a new thread. This keeps everything tidy, and this keeps everything together. And for me, as an army of one, to be able to do, keep a track of 79 active Wi-Fi projects, the secret sauce is that I repeat the same steps over and over again. And that's the main thing I wanted to show and share with you guys today, is that you need to define a process and you need to document it, and then you just fine tune it and you just repeat that process. And Seven Signal being a vendor agnostic company, we're very big in transparency. And I'm going to show you actually how we do proof of concepts and all of the information that we get, and then the document that actually follows it becomes a living document. So with that lead in, I guess I should just say a little bit about me. This is me. I've been in the business for a long time. Don, you can see the longer I've been, the smaller my hairline is and the larger that my suit sizes are. To new people in IT, exercise. Don't do what I did and just sit around and eat lots of cheeseburgers. It's harder to get there than to start right. So
words to live by.
That's right. It's really relevant. Yeah, it's really relevant. So I'm going to show you guys actually these living documents that we do, and I'm really going to focus in on the proof of concept guide. And this, as a vendor, which Seven Signal is, and you can look at this as another vendor in some line of work that you have, or you can take this as your army of one and use this process as well. But this is what you should expect from a vendor. You should expect strong communication, strong documentation, and clearly defined deliverables and clearly defined timelines. And then you basically keep track of it. So we're going to run over these topics real quick. 4 most common project styles. The names have changed a little bit. What I really want to focus on, I'm going to throw some goodies in, like the email stuff, the tips and tricks for keeping your projects on time and on budget. Understanding stakeholder needs, goal setting. Right? Everybody says, I have a dream, but dream is really a goal on a deadline. That's not my quote. I'm not really sure who said that, but I've always say that when people say, I dream of retiring one day, or I dream of having this or that. I'm like, well, a dream is a goal on a deadline. I think it's Brian Tracy, but it's a really good word to live by. And that our goals, when we have these projects, we actually are saying, what do you dream about, in kind of a cheesy way of have your Wi-Fi to work, and let's get that on a deadline. Right? Let's see what that looks like. Let's define those deliverables, and then let's assess risk and assign roles. Over the many years and thoughts of project management styles, Don again had mentioned an army of one. With COVID, with a lot of people working remote, the proliferation of the clouds and the tools. You might have heard recently, Cisco actually acquired a company recently. They did it all from remote, which was pretty amazing. They actually never even met. we are doing more and more from the work from home obvious reasons, and you guys probably are as well. And we're seeing a paradigm shift. So the proliferation of video conferencing, like we're talking about today, and some of these tools that you can use really can use your benefit for your internal and your external projects, depending on which part you're on. So we have internal project management, we've got external, we have hybrids, we have acquisitions, all a little bit different. And there's different types of Wi-Fi projects. But what I wanted to focus in on the time that we have is how to define all of that and keep track of it. And tips and tricks section, again, start with the end in mind, and you'll see this in our document. We actually have a timeline that is stamped, and from the minute that we start, that's the timeline that we're looking at. We have a review document that's even in the timeline that says this is what we're going to go over, this is what we are looking to have, and this is actually what is success. A lot of projects in my career, especially early in my career when networking was new and I was young as well, is that we had these great big projects, but we never talked about actually what good looked like or what success was. So having that defined and having the information of the stakeholders, of the budget, all in a document that's a living document that can be shared. And here's a tip. When you create these living documents, you don't have to email it back and forth. Use Google Drive, use SharePoint, use Dropbox, and just hyperlink it. Even if you guys are using SharePoint, uploading a document or even a living document like Google Doc, cuts down on that email size space and having to resend or having to, email not coming through, but having a nice link right there really helps with the process of all of this collaboration going on. The main point of a project, in a Wi-Fi project too, is define who is actually the customer, who's the end user, decision maker, and have that well defined in a document because they do have each needs. And real quickly, we're going to move into goal setting and a little bit about that this document or these documents are living, they're fluid. There's certain things in the document that are milestones, but it is a fluid document. And if you repeat this process, once you have it defined, you'll find that projects run a lot smoother. And also projects stall. Projects kick up back again. Projects sometimes restart. Sometimes a project will start and stop 6 months from now. If you have all of this information already handy, saved in a folder, like you notice with my email or in my document tree looks the same way, I can easily go back and say, okay, where did we leave off, right? Where was the last place? And not necessarily like, well, we need to restart the whole process. I don't know who was here. Even if there's a different stakeholder now, you have this living document that's showing these steps of where you are in the project. You can simply hand it to the next professional, and that person's like, okay, this was my role that I just took. All right, let's start from right up here if we have to. I am a huge proponent of Slack. We use it here in 7Signal. It's a great tool. Even the free version is great. Slack also has a webhook integration for alarms and alerts. So 7Signal being a Wi-Fi vendor and appliance like our Sapphire Eye, we actually can send alerts to a Slack channel. So what a great way to have a project group, Slack name, and then also have alerting going to the same time and show actually, what's happening, right? For a repository for everyone. So a lot of these services are free. A lot of these services have a lot of built-in security features already. So if you have a document that's sensitive, you can put it up into Google Drive, and then you can set the permissions to where only certain people can see it, and then it can be deleted at a certain time. So there are some really built-in nice features for some of these freeware tools. And again, I'm not, full disclosure, I'm a security guy as well. You definitely want to review that for each person, make sure it's okay. But it makes it a lot easier than constantly sending huge email attachments, right? Is to use some of these tools for your product. So real quickly, all of that information together, we define all of this into one page. And if you would bear with me, I'd like to show you what this actually looks like. So at 7Signal, I think we've done a really good job of having a product like this that we actually repeat. And what this is a statement of work. document that we use every day for customers and existing customers, and vendors should be doing with this with you as well. And what we do is we define what I just discussed. We give a little bit of information. I'm gonna make this a little big, because there's only some things that are pertinent. We define exactly what we were discussing, and then we put timelines around it. So you'll notice a section on terms, clearly defined terms of what the scope is of this project. Doesn't matter what type of project you're doing, you're going to want to have those terms documented, and this is that living document. You're going to have a clearly defined deliverables of what's going to be applied from a vendor or from another team or from yourself, what you're actually delivering. We give information about what is needed for our project to work right here in this document with references to other links. So for other people, being an army of one and being the point person, sometimes if you just give people the information that they need and show them real easily where that information is, they'll go and look at that information on their own and answer their own question instead of asking you or somebody else with it. Very, very good to speed up processes and very clearly define what was needed, little information, but here's the most important part here is the timeline. In projects, you want to, as we first thing I talked about, we want to start with the end in mind. We want to have a date, and as soon as we start, we want to break that down. In 7 Signal world, we break these down by different meeting times, and we have each one of these is actually a calendar meeting invite. It's actually pre-scheduled, usually on a cadence, usually 1 week or 2 weeks in advance. We name our calendar invite the actual name of the milestone, and we upload this document with that calendar invite with a PDF form. If someone can't make the meeting still usually will happen because we already have our documentation, and so they can pick up on the next week. We like to schedule our meetings sometimes for the kickoffs, maybe an hour. That's usually a little too long, but we start to go into 15 increments. About everybody can make a 15-minute meeting, and if there is a tangent or if there's a break-off session, then we can schedule another time for that. But usually keeping these check-ins about 15 minutes, on a cadence is really all you need. So we mentioned what the milestones are, which are meetings for this project. We mentioned how much we think the effort is and the timing, right? And then the second most important of all projects is what is the goal? What is the dream? What does success look like? Here are those things for this one example. This is what, at the end of the day, for our project, and think of this in terms for what you could use of what a successful project is. And now you have your timeline, you have your tasks associated to people, you have your calendar invites there. Everybody has a clear defined work. So now you have all this information. What do you do with it? Again, you want to repeat the process. So here is this document in action. I'm just going to load this guy. Now, PowerPoint is great. I like to export this as a PDF and then put it into a Dropbox or a Google Drive or SharePoint where it's just a link. And then I send these an update as we go. And it's a living document. So each milestone we talked about, we then review what the calendar time frame is, right? Each meeting. We then review, super important, where we are in the project phase, what timelines we were when we hit these different meetings, right? Each time we did a meeting like this, everybody was there, everybody agreed where we were at, we checked it off, and we moved down. Very clearly defined on where we're at and what needs to be done. We always review what the goals are or what the deliverables are. This isn't just for 7 Signal. This should be for any Wi-Fi project that you have as an army of one. You should always clearly be finding what is success. We get lots of scope creep, a lot of, well, can it do this? Can it do that? Don't be afraid to say, hey, this will affect the timeline, or this isn't in scope, or if it's that important, maybe we need to add this into scope, right? Maybe we need to stretch some things. But having that clearly defined, everybody usually agrees, yeah, that's fine. We'll work with that, right? We have information about what we're doing, and then I've actually removed this data but we actually show Seven Signal and for you guys and any vendor that you have the actual success criteria. If we're working towards a goal on a timeline, we should report each time that individual goal and if we're hitting it or not, right? That puts everything together and keeps you on a timeline. And then after you show that in your scheduled meeting, you then review exactly what you just said again, your success, what's been done, things, how things are. If there's any outstanding tasks that need to be done, you document it here as well, and you document it live while the meeting's going. And then you review and get sign off on the next step, which is what we do right down here, where we say next step. And we have the time of things that are when we did this meeting, and hopefully how everything moves, we move straight down the line all the way up to wrap up. So in a nutshell, that is how we do Wi-Fi project management, specifically from a vendor to a customer in a POC, proof of concept, or a pilot or a trial. That is how we do this timeline, how we do our process. It is one document that we reuse each time for each customer, but is completely different for each customer based on criteria, but we keep the same timeline, dates, key responsibilities, all of that might be different for a different account, but we all keep it on the same document. And it helps somebody like me able to manage 79 active Wi-Fi projects really easily. And one other thing that I'd like to mention too that really helps, and again, this is Seven Signal specific, but this should be also for you and for your vendor if you were in this project, is that I had mentioned in the document that we have like different links to go into help. This is a living document for as well. This is our info.sevensignal.com. Any information that's involved in the project can be answered through this document. They're not very hard to create, and they're always a living document. So again, when you are an army of one and a lot of people have different tasks and might not be responsible for it, instead of them waiting for the meeting or maybe just sending a quick email, they can actually be empowered to look at this information themselves and say, oh, I remember that information right here is in the getting started document. So having a living document that shows the customer, your customer or our customer, anybody's project you're doing this for, to show, hey, this is the information that you need, it's referenced right here, really helps with the transparency and really helps with smoothing out a lot of confusion sometimes between projects on what actually needs to be done or what's needed. It's all right here. And as engineers to engineers, we like to have this documentation to ourselves to be able to research more instead of your meetings actually becoming a Q&A session of what you need X, Y, and Z. You actually enable your end users or your people on the team to say, this is the information, I got it on my calendar next week, I'm going to be able to report on it, we're good to go.
Right on. Thanks, Chris. Great presentation. Got some questions coming in here. Some of them are around getting a copy of today's presentation. So we will share today's presentation with you. We will post it on YouTube as well. So depending on your patience, you can go directly to YouTube and pull it up about an hour after today's show, or you can sit tight and wait for your email from Todd Taylor with the link to today's presentation. So a question here from Adam. How do you get device endpoint and network teams on the same page? So we run into this a lot. So you got the network guys saying that their gear is protecting their gear, making sure their gear is innocent, and then you've got the device teams saying it's not the device, it's the network, and the finger pointing goes back and forth. So
Right.
Any advice there, Chris?
Absolutely, and we deal with that a lot. Get them involved early and get them in the process somehow. Make them beta testers, get their input, ask them what good looks like, and focus on a collaboration and the strengths between both of the teams on what the project will do, and you'll get a lot more headway with those teams instead of just assigning tasks to them and it's just one more task for them to do.
Yep. Thanks, Chris. Advice. Let's see. Sorry. Mike is looking for advice on how to ask for a budget. We run into that all the time, especially on the proof of concepts, right? This is we start out in a project budget sometimes. Sometimes it's more strategic for the organization. There's always pain. Any
Mhm.
thoughts on where the budgets come from?
Absolutely. You want to put your feet in the shoes of the business owner, and you want to be able to show why you need that money to be spent to benefit the business. You can show examples of that your competitors are actually using this and they're going to have a competitive advantage. You can show this as, this will keep more time, more resources for us to do another project. You want to make your budget case applicable to the business needs and the future direction of that company. That always works.
Hmm. Agree. Thanks,
That's a
Chris.
strong statement. I should probably clarify that, but always works. But it usually always, at least gets you into consideration.
Next question here isn't related to project management, but a general question. I'll pitch it over to you, Chris. But does the Seven Signal product help with the site survey, or is there a better product out there for that? So maybe you can. I know what you're going to say. So talk to that great partner we have, and the integration, the ability we have to import those site surveys, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So our Seven Signal, we can import site surveys from Ekahau. A site survey tool, again, depends on a lot of variables uh, and the vendor that you choose. A great way to actually get more information about that is to request some of these vendors to reach out to them and actually ask them that exact same question that you've asked us and say, what's the best tool? Or if you use a value-added reseller or if you use a services department, going and talking to them about what you want and what your needs are, they should usually come back with 3 or 4 different examples. Every site survey tool has their plus and minuses. It's just list what you actually want that tool to do, how long you want to use it, the price that you're willing to pay for it, and then send that on, and you'll start to get people that will say, hey, that's actually our tool, or that's not our tool for you. And you can make a decision that way.
Yep, right on. Oh, and Chris, I've got a little fun fact since we're talking about Ekahau. Did you know that we went through the same incubator as Ekahau in Finland?
No, I did not know that. That's awesome.
Yes, and also in that same incubator was a company called Angry Birds.
Oh man, that's the trifecta of amazing technology right there. Maybe they'll make a movie about this. What do you think?
It could very well make a movie. So I'll end it with this next question, and it's around buy-in. How do you get C-level buy-in for your projects? And we live this too.
Absolutely. Put yourself in their shoes. Understand what they're going through with what they need. They're trying to do their business as best they can. They have someone to report to, especially C-level. They have shareholders. They have investors. They've got board to talk to. Talk to that person or those people about where the business is going and what we're trying to accomplish, and then see how your project or your budget can actually help that project. Help him, move on and get those new resources by having budget for a product that's actually going to help him do his job instead of hurt. Example is, if say a building was being decommissioned and you weren't aware, but you were looking at maybe doing a refresh, you two things are working against each other. Just having a conversation with the C-level and saying, where we're going to be in 6 months, or I need this project. It's like, hey, we're about to possibly acquire this new building or acquire this company, or who knows. And you start having these conversations with them. They start putting you as a strategic decision maker. They put you on that other side of the fence instead of just an expense, and you'll see that you get a lot more noticeability about your budget and some of the ideas that you have, because you're helping to grow the business.
Agree. Thanks, Chris. And thanks everybody for joining us today. Getting you out of here on time. We try and do that each week, and we don't always succeed. So we'll see you all hopefully next week at our virtual user group. Again, that's next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Same time, same station as this one. Chris, have a great rest of the day. I'm sure I'll talk to you again this week. Everyone, we'll see you next week. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.